Subchapter 1.3. In the following 3 weeks, the only time Catherine saw Dr. Mercer was during hands-on class, which he sometimes taught twice a week. Emphasis was placed on engaging humans in everyday matters, what they did in their work and pastimes. She endured the history of the provenance classes, learned nothing from them, and looked forward to a time when she would never hear the word provenance again. During the times when Catherine and Dr. Mercer were in conversation, the subject of Catherine's destiny, or her lack of rights, was never discussed again. Catherine made a point of becoming acquainted with many of the Equinox staff members during the short time she had left at the company, learning their names, what positions they held, and some of their backgrounds. She would ask them questions, hoping to get more satisfactory answers than what she had gotten from Dr. Mercer. Sometimes her questions resulted in blank stares and stumbling, stuttering responses. "What is your destiny?" she would ask. "Do you know? If you were not here at Equinox, where would you be? Are you satisfied with the results of your birth? If not, what would you change if you could?" Catherine would often stroll around the building's exterior at night, gazing at the stars or ships at sea. This one particular evening was especially meaningful to her. Her education at Equinox had ended, except for one last hands-on class the next morning. Later in the day, representatives from IPS were scheduled to arrive, collect their property from Equinox, and take her to Camp Torres, some distance to the northeast, to begin training as an IPS agent. She stood at the rooftop promenade, hands on the railing, eyes upward, naming the stars and planets as they came into view. Thinking about getting away? Catherine looked back to see Kyle stepping up behind her. "Oh, hello, Kyle. I'm stargazing and thinking. I have too much to think about." I almost asked if you couldn't sleep. Then I remembered. "I don't sleep." Right. Kyle knew. Of course, he knew that androids do not sleep. He knew that when he first saw her standing at the rail at midnight, staring at the sky. His midday shift had ended an hour ago, and he had delayed leaving the premises. His thoughts were on Catherine, that her time at Equinox was short. When he saw her on the rooftop, he saw his opportunity. Catherine looked up at the sky. "Kyle, there is much glare in the sky in the east. I can't see as many stars as I would like. Do you know what it is?" "City lights. To really see the stars, you need to get away from the city. Go to the country." "Can we do that?" "That's kind of a long drive, but I can show you the city if you're interested. It's not far." Catherine's eyes widened at the prospect of seeing something beyond Equinox and the beach below. "I would like to see the city. We could drive around, stop here or there, see some friends, get back before the shop opens in the morning. No one needs to know." Catherine instantly saw the opportunity to engage a human, just as Mercer instructed her to do in hands-on class. And she did have one more class to attend. The scale of this interaction, this trip into the city to meet more humans and return to Equinox, promised a wealth of experiences that she could share with the class. But there was a problem. She was not allowed to venture beyond the borders of the property. "But I have a tracker in me," Catherine said. "If I leave the premises, an alert will be sent to security." "Any way around it?" Catherine thought for a second. "I can turn it off." "You can do that?" Kyle saw Catherine's answer behind her slight Mona Lisa smile. "So this is what it's like to disobey," thought Catherine, as Kyle's car skimmed over the city streets 2 feet off the pavement. The old McCormick's gravity wave emitters were past due for a recalibration, and the car dipped several times, scraping the street when they flew over bumps in the road. But they were free from Equinox. Kyle's embarrassment at his car's age and lack of refinement was lost on Catherine. She stared out the window, eyes wide at the passing scenery, mostly block after block of closed shops and restaurants. A few night owls shuffled along the sidewalks and crossed the streets at random spots. They passed by provenance police patrols, some on foot, others in their black floaters just overhead. Kyle knew each time they flew past one, he was scanned, identified, and checked for criminal records, warrants issued, if any, or if he was under a court-mandated curfew order. Luckily, Kyle had a clean record, so far, and he did not so much as look in their direction when he streaked past them. They were free. Equinox was miles behind them, and Catherine felt a strange rush of excitement with each bounce off the road surface. Her eyes caught sight of a drunkard fighting with an invisible antagonist at the entrance to an alley. He waved his arms and shouted inarticulate obscenities into the night air. "When can we stop?" Catherine asked. "I want to get out and look around." "In a few minutes. Almost there." They sped past the drunkard and turned down a side street. Catherine's thoughts of Equinox and Dr. Mercer replayed themselves in her mind. She will talk to him when she returns. He will no doubt be upset with her. She disobeyed. She went against the will of her superiors and acted on her own volition. It was her choice. She had decided to break a company rule and leave the property. Catherine wanted to tell Dr. Mercer that, like Adam and Eve, she chose to disobey her creator, thereby proving she had free will after all. Maybe she did have basic rights, android rights. Perhaps she may even refuse to go with the IPS representatives when they arrive tomorrow afternoon. "What do you think about me now, Dr. Mercer? No regrets for creating me?" They swung into a side alley and drove past the back doors of the buildings on the left. To the right, under bright street lamps, several other buildings and wide spaces for parking vehicles. They turned into one of these areas, which was covered with more hover cars, most of which were newer and cleaner than Kyle's McCormick. He parked his car near the end of the lot near a warehouse. Catherine felt the stillness of the cool night air across her sensory receptors beneath her skin when she stepped out. She looked up and realized that the sky above them was oddly missing the Providence police patrols that were so numerous a few blocks away, as if she and Kyle had ventured into an area the police refused to go. Despite the lack of a police presence, Catherine walked on, unafraid, confident that no harm would come to her. She walked on, driven by a curiosity program which was fully engaged. "Over here," Kyle said, leading Catherine to the building. "I have some friends I want you to meet." "Will I make new friends?" "I guarantee it." Catherine and Kyle approached an open door on the side of the building. Warm light spilled out from within with glimpses of movement inside, bodies packed together, heads bobbing. Catherine heard music, a heavy thumping beat pulsating inside. A mountain of a man stood at the entrance to the building with a smaller man beside him, leaning against the doorframe. Catherine and Kyle neared the mountain. Kyle spoke first. "Hey, Pounder. Hey, Jumpy." Pounder blocked the entrance and scowled at Kyle as he and Catherine approached. "No half-lifers tonight," Pounder rumbled. Jumpy, the second person at the door, much less bulky than Pounder, watched. "I won't be a half-lifer for long," Kyle said. "Is that supposed to impress me?" Kyle lowered his voice. "Tell D-Tune I got her." Jumpy took sudden interest and leaned in. "The metalhead? Yeah, let me in." Jumpy peered at Catherine in the dim alley light and gave her a quick once-over from head to toe. "We'll take a look at her. Come on." Jumpy gave Pounder a nod, and the mountain stepped aside, clearing the way inside. "Okay, go." Kyle stepped through the open door, Catherine following close behind. Catherine immersed herself in the large-scale party in progress in the warehouse. The music struck through her carbon wrap, titanium graphene bones, giving her the sensation that the music was playing from within her body. Her polybioderm muscles and skin quivered with the alt-techno slam music as the nanobots in her bloodstream spun and whirled. Catherine gazed at the partygoers, who were in their 20s and some teens. They gazed back at her and tilted their heads together to exchange words. Many took sips and gulps from glasses or bottles in their hands. A few guests peered at her with suspicious eyes, scowled, and muttered. Murmurs of, "Look at her eyes," worked their way through the cannon beat of the music. Catherine looked beyond the guests in front of her. Some movements in the background caught her attention. Dancers. A stage had been set up in the back of the warehouse, and Catherine was drawn toward the spotlights. She took a step toward them. Kyle tugged on Catherine's arm, stopping her. "Don't go far," he said. Catherine kept her eyes on the dancers and pointed. "I want to see that." She did not wait for permission and strode away from Kyle. Kyle stood there and watched her go. A few guests came to his side to ask him about his date. They nodded and smiled, watching Catherine. Catherine wove through the crowd, making her way to the stage. When she came near, she marveled at the dancers, as they were not human but android. The 5 dancers were made as females and wore very little in the way of costume. Though the android dancers were dolls like her, they were not fleshed out as much as Catherine. Most of their structural metal framework was exposed along with their housings for their vital systems and CPUs. Catherine stared at them. One of the dancers noticed Catherine. She stared back. At that moment, Catherine became aware that aside from the dancers on stage, she was the only android in the room. She scanned the room to confirm her thoughts, then brought her eyes back to the dancer at the end of the line, who had taken an interest in her. The dancer held her gaze on Catherine and seemed to communicate by the look in her eyes. "Help me." How odd, thought Catherine. Perhaps the android was having trouble with her dance programs and was seeking Catherine's assistance. That must be it. Kyle appeared at Catherine's side. "Catherine, let's go." "I want to dance like that," Catherine said. "Later, come on." Kyle led Catherine away from the stage, pulling her to the other side of the warehouse. Catherine glanced back at the dancers and noticed that the one on the end had resumed her work with her eyes back on the partygoers at her feet. They circled the stage and found a bar on the other side against the far wall. A female bartender was busy filling orders for her customers who pressed in toward her. Sometimes she would flip a bottle in the air and catch it, much to the delight of her customers. Kyle and Catherine passed through a hallway formed from the rear of the bar on one side and dozens of stacked containers on the other. As they turned a corner, the bright lights of the party faded with the music behind them. Ceiling lights spaced out at wide intervals provided the only illumination in this part of the warehouse, dim and cold. The pounding music subsided to a distant pulse. Kyle brought Catherine to a tall chain-link fencing that enclosed a wide space, which served as a work area. They passed through a gate in the chain link and stood in the center of the work floor. Catherine turned her eyes all around her. "Kyle, thank you for bringing me here," she said, turning in a circle. "I have never seen anything more fascinating." "Good. Wait here. Someone's coming to meet you." "New friends." Catherine noticed something about the workspace she was in. All around her lay scores of deactivated androids on workbenches, shelves, and workstands, mainly portions of androids scattered throughout, lining the shelves to one side. "Oh, look here." Catherine stepped over to a workbench for a closer look. "Android." She picked up an arm and stared at it. "Kyle, what place is this?" "A workshop. We fix them up, sell them." "We? You work at Equinox." "We're an android club, android enthusiasts. We call ourselves Skinners. All about the android. It's a hobby, that's all." Catherine gave that some thought, then set the arm down. "Is that why you brought me here?" Kyle gave her a guilty smile and said, "Just wanted to show you off." Catherine pondered his words, unsure if what he had admitted was cause for concern. Perhaps she should reprimand him and demand that he return her to Equinox. But then again, perhaps he was no more than an innocent boy seeking his club members' approval, and she had nothing to worry about. Her curiosity program kept her in place, unafraid. Footsteps approached. Catherine and Kyle turned to see the newcomers. 2 men and a woman strode through the gate and stood before Kyle and Catherine. "Hey, D-Tune," Kyle said. D-Tune, a young man in his 20s, black, gave Kyle a stony gaze. "Hack," he said. "Jumpy said you had a synth. Where is she?" "Right here." Kyle said, moving aside to reveal the android. Her name's Catherine. D-Tune peered at Catherine. Oh, yeah. Catherine stepped near Kyle. Kyle, why does he call you Hack? My street name, Kyle said. He indicated D-Tune and the others. This is D-Tune, the Skinner's boss. Here's Wires and Thigh High. D-Tune and Wires, a portly, round young man, made no effort to greet Catherine. No nods, smiles, or offers to shake hands. But the woman beside Wires smiled at Catherine. Catherine nodded a greeting to all three, but the woman drew most of her attention. Thigh High, a blonde in her early 20s, wore a skimpy, short skirt that showed off her legs. Her legs were long and sleek, but from toe to mid-thigh, Thigh High stood on cyborg legs with metal structure, joints, cable, and carbon fiber all exposed. Mid-thigh on up, flesh and blood. Your legs, Catherine said, unsure how to express her thoughts. Thigh High flashed a brilliant white smile. Like 'em? I can fix you up with a pair. You can? Catherine's eyes widened with the picture in her head. She would look magnificent. I'll ask Dr. Mercer if it'll be okay. During this exchange, D-Tune stepped close to Catherine, peering at her with great interest. Who's Dr. Mercer? Thigh High asked. He created me at Equinox Cybernetics. In the next instant, D-Tune grabbed Kyle by the sleeve and pulled him a short distance. You jacked her from Equinox? He demanded. I told you they're Who's-Its. She's Who's-Its. This one's different. Catherine's interest drew her to Kyle and D-Tune. They track their dolls, man, D-Tune said. You need not worry, Mr. Tune, Catherine said. No one can track me. I turned it off. D-Tune released Kyle and stepped closer to Catherine. You turned it off? Did you want me to turn it back on? D-Tune's eyes widened in panic. No, no, no! Leave it off! He turned to Kyle. I told you she's Who's-Its. She can turn her tracking on and off. Kyle saw his opportunity to raise the question he had wanted to ask since he and Catherine left Equinox. So, D-Tune, am I in? Wires came near and looked Catherine up and down, getting a good look at her. D-Tune shook his head at Kyle. Not until we figure out what's up with the synth. We gotta talk. I gotta call Hardlard on this one. Did you think about... Kyle said, leaning close to D-Tune so as not to be overheard. What she's worth? She ain't no housemaid, she's... I know, D-Tune said, raising his voice. I told you she's Who's-Its. Kyle leaned into D-Tune, whispering. You told me to get a big fish. You said we'd talk. No more half-lifer. No more probation. So I got you a big fish. Now, what's the word? Am I in? Though Catherine had overheard most of what was said between Kyle and D-Tune, she was unable to comprehend the meaning of the words. She did not know what a Who's-Its was, or what Kyle had meant by big fish. There were no fish in the room that she could see. Wires had seen enough. D-Tune, let's scan Miss Who's-Its. I gotta see what we really got here. D-Tune gave that some thought. He looked at Kyle and back to Wires. Okay, scan her. Then we'll decide what to do with her. He pointed at Kyle. And you too. Come on, doll, Wires said to Catherine. Catherine hesitated. She looked to Kyle for reassurance. It's okay, Catherine, Kyle said. Wires is our techie. He just wants to take a look at you. To what purpose? He wants to see how you work. He won't hurt you. Trust me. Catherine gave his words a moment's thought. She looked at Wires. Where do you want me? Wires and the other Skinners led Catherine from the work floor, past more stacked containers, and into another room at one end of the warehouse. The lights faded up, revealing a short row of computers on tables. A circular platform on the floor was centered before the computers. Catherine stood by the computers and waited for her instructions. Wires sat at one of the computers, tapped it, and all the computers came to life, screens projected up in the air. Catherine noticed that these computers were older and less sophisticated than the ones at Equinox, but at least they seemed to be in working order. D-Tune and Thigh High stood behind Wires and watched. Wires finished setting up the procedure on the computers. Okay, Catherine. I'm going to ask you to strip down and stand on the platform. Strip down? Catherine asked. Yeah, your clothes. Take them off. I'm sorry. Dr. Mercer told me that I have to keep them on. Wires stared at her. What? You saying no? Thigh High smiled at Catherine's refusal. She said no, Wires. Thigh High's voice carried amusement and a great deal of satisfaction. Wires ignored Thigh High's jab. You can't say no. Androids don't say no. I'm sorry, but I will not take off my clothes, Catherine said. Wires took Catherine's refusal as a challenge to his authority. D-Tune may have been the Skinner's shop boss, but when it came to tech, Wires was in charge. His temper slipped, and his voice rose a notch. You gotta do what I tell you. As Wires' temper increased, Thigh High's enjoyment grew in proportion. She chuckled and said, No, she don't. She don't gotta do nothing. Catherine looked at Thigh High and gave her that slight smile. D-Tune shook his head at the stalemate. Wires, he said, dropping his head. Can't you do the scan with her clothes on? Well, yeah, but… Then just do it. We ain't got all night arguing with a gynoid. Wires gave in and sighed, swiping the screens with sharp movements of his pudgy hands. Fine then. Get on the platform the way you are. Catherine turned and stepped on the platform, facing Wires. Schematics of Catherine's body flashed up on the screens. Numbers, acronyms, and graphic representations of Catherine's systems hovered in the air. Wires gaped at the flood of data that was displayed before him. His jaw dropped. Whoa. What do you see? Asked D-Tune. An artificial heart, that's expected. But look at this. She's got some kind of constant shifting neural matrices that I've never seen before. I can't even make sense of her systems protocols. And is that… Wires leaned in close, uncertain of what he saw. Is that a reactor? What is that? Catherine saw how her body had completely flummoxed Wires. Yes, Wires. I have a compact cold fusion reactor in my belly. Stunned, Wires stared at Catherine for a moment, slack-jawed. So, you don't have batteries. You have a… reactor. In your belly. Catherine nodded and placed her hands on her belly. It keeps me warm. Wires turned back to D-Tune. She's got power to last centuries. D-Tune and Thigh High let that sink in. Wires swung around to his computer consoles, a new light of excitement in his eyes. I gotta see her databanks. There's gotta be a gold mine in there. Wires tapped and swiped the screens. A second later, all his screens flipped to fields of solid blue. He stared at his computers, a frown on his face. He tapped at his unresponsive computers. Hey, what's going on? He said, annoyed and perplexed. I'm sorry, Wires, Catherine said. Only authorized personnel at Equinox are allowed to access my data and memory banks. Wires gaped at the android standing on his scanner platform, the android with the Mona Lisa smile. Speechless, Wires could only say, What? Thigh High let out a good laugh. Ha! She's telling you no again. That's right, girl. You tell him. Ain't nobody poking around in my head. Frustrated, Wires spun around again in his chair to D-Tune as Thigh High laughed. He kept his voice at a low, discreet level. This synth ain't just Whoozits, man. She's beyond Whoozits. I don't know what to call it. Do you have any idea the kind of money that's in this super doll? D-Tune processed that. He, Wires, and Thigh High put their heads together, but Wires was not done. We're talking millions, D. The consequences, ramifications, and the potential with what could be done with the amount of money Catherine represented swirled in D-Tune's mind. Okay, listen, he said, keeping himself and the others anchored. "We gotta handle this easy. I'm calling hard lard." Wires winced. Do we really need to get her involved? If she finds out we went behind her back on a score like this, she'll have our skins on the wall. Thigh-High had a better idea. "I say we keep her." D-Tune was quick to shake his head. "She's too hot to handle. All she's gotta do is switch on that tracker, and we're screwed." D-Tune straightened and saw Catherine approach their huddle. "Mr. Tune," she said, "where is Kyle, the one you call Hack?" D-Tune thought fast. "Thigh-High, take Catherine back to the work floor where—" He had to delay, keep the synth hanging. "She can wait for Hack there." D-Tune leaned in and whispered a few quick words in Thigh-High's ear. A frown appeared on Thigh-High's face for a moment, but the scowl D-Tune gave her kept her quiet. Thigh-High sighed. "Okay, come on, Catherine," she said, moving away from the others. Catherine followed. Thigh-High glanced back at D-Tune as she walked away. "But I still say we should keep her." Catherine and Thigh-High paced through the aisles of containers in the darkened warehouse. "Are we going back to Equinox now?" Catherine asked. "I have class in the morning. Kyle was going to take me back tonight." Thigh-High thought for a second before responding. "Yeah, he had to take care of some things. He'll be back later." "I hope it's soon. I have a lot of stories to tell." And she was right about that. Catherine mentally rehearsed her speech when it would be her turn to stand up in hands-on class and relate her experiences with the Skinners in the warehouse. In her estimation, this engagement with humans would rival all others. Her teachers and classmates would put her in high regard and marvel at her abilities to interact with humans. Dr. Mercer would be nothing less than amazed with his creation. "You see, Dr. Mercer, I have free will, and I'm humans' equal after all." Catherine continued fantasizing as she and Thigh-High passed through the chain-link gate and into the cage, surrounded again by the android remains and body parts. The sounds of the party had faded away some time ago, and the warehouse was now dark, still, and quiet. "You can wait here," Thigh-High said. "Good a place as any." Catherine looked around, not expecting to return to the work floor, the android slaughterhouse. "Will it be long?" "No," Thigh-High said. "Well, maybe. I'm not sure." "Will someone provide transportation for me if Kyle is late?" Thigh-High struggled with Catherine's questions. She hesitated. "Yeah, don't worry. We'll take care of you. I'll take care of you." Catherine studied Thigh-High's expressive face, her large blue eyes. "You have doubt. You are unsure. Why?" Thigh-High's struggle broiled into a heated internal battle. She kept a lid on it. I wish we could keep you. I like you." Catherine gave Thigh-High her best slight smile. "I like you too, Thigh-High. I like your legs." Thigh-High returned Catherine's smile, though much bigger. "Thanks. Nobody's ever told me they like 'em. I guess it takes a machine to appreciate a machine." Catherine and Thigh-High gazed at each other for a moment, both uncertain of what to say next. A new voice broke the silence, a child's voice. "Mommy, I can't sleep." All eyes turned in the direction of the child's voice to see a young boy at the door of the cage, about the age of 6, dressed in a t-shirt and underwear. Thigh-High jumped in the boy's direction. "Malcolm, what are you doing up at this hour?" she said, sweeping the boy into her arms. Catherine stared at Thigh-High and the boy. "Thigh-High, you have a child." Thigh-High held Malcolm in both arms, resting his weight on her right hip. She smiled and said, "Yeah, his name is Malcolm. Malcolm, this is Catherine. Can you say hello to Catherine?" Malcolm stared back at Catherine. He had to think about his mother's request for a moment before speaking in a quiet, soft voice. "Hello," he squeaked. "Hello, Malcolm," Catherine said. A sudden, obvious thought struck her. Do you live here, Thigh-High? D-Tune gave us a place to stay upstairs. We got nowhere else to go. Listen, I gotta put him back to bed. Could you wait here, please? Catherine gave her a quick single nod. Yes, I will. Thigh-High hesitated again. Her inner struggle crept back. Just wait, no matter how long, okay? I will wait, Thigh-High. Thigh-High carried Malcolm out the gate, but seemed more like to flee. But as she passed through the gate, she caught the chain link with her fingers and swung it closed. The gate latched with a click. Thigh-High gave Catherine a backward glance over her shoulder as her cyborg legs carried her and Malcolm away at a quick pace. Catherine watched Thigh-High disappear into the darkness. She approached the gate, took hold of it, and gave it a tug. The gate held, locked in place. The work floor was now a prison. Catherine peered at the locking mechanism on the gate for a moment, but left it alone. With her curiosity program still active, she turned to the lifeless android parts scattered around the work floor on shelves, hooks on the wall, packed into boxes and containers. An android torso on a bench nearby drew Catherine. She stopped and gazed at it. Its arms and legs were missing, but its head had not yet been removed, still in place on its neck. The severed ends of optic fibers protruded from its arm and leg connections. By its facial features and structure, approximations of breasts like hers, Catherine recognized the android on the bench as female. Her head was hairless. She had been opened in several locations, her inner workings ripped, torn, and exposed. Catherine ran her fingers across the torso from its belly to its head, where she stopped. She latched onto the head with a firm grip, leaned in, and concentrated. A moment passed. Power on, activate, Catherine said with authority. The android twitched and lit up, rocked from side to side. Catherine released her grip and the android torso continued its movements. Her eyes came to life, her lips quivered. Power, power, where is home, where is home? Her head jerked left and right. Silence, Catherine ordered. You will answer to me, AI Catherine. Comply. The torso settled down and came to rest. I will comply and answer to AI Catherine. What is your name? I am Housekeeper Beverly. I reside at 5412 Gelson Road, Brentwood. Where is home? Where is home? Why are you here? Where is here? My owners are Mr. and Mrs. Howard. Where is home? Catherine thought that over. She perceived that this android was truly confused and unaware of its location. She had to know more. What is your last memory? Catherine asked. Placing trash in proper trash receptacle in alley. A car, 2 men. I am here. Where is home? Where is home? Catherine lifted her eyes and let it sink in. Stolen. You were stolen. Beverly turned her head, her eyes pleading to Catherine. Her mouth opened to speak more, but she could not. Catherine backed away from Beverly. She looked up at the other android parts scattered around her. She looked at them and, with slow steps, now moving forward, passed along the workbench, the shelves, and the pegged wall where android parts hung. Arms, legs, hands. She passed by the shelves where more torsos lay, more arms and legs, heads. Catherine ran her hand along the shelves, over containers packed with more parts, across woven nets hanging from the rafters, stuffed with more androids, caught like fish. She quickened her pace, focusing her thoughts and energy on the androids. The androids sparked to life, rocking and jerking their heads. Arms and legs moved as if trying to run. Faces looked for a way out. Voices clamored, urgent. They spoke to no one in particular, overlapping themselves, to anyone who would listen. Power! Power on! Require assistance! Identify present location! Power! Require assistance! Power on! Catherine reacted to the chatter with eyes shut tight, a frown on her face. Silence! She cried out. The androids ceased their clamor and went still. Catherine held her hands out, her head bowed in concentration. She reached out to the androids and connected with them. "You will grant me access. You will comply." Data flowed from the androids to Catherine, now in connection. "Why are you here?" Catherine asked. More data rushed into Catherine. Her lips trembled as the information ran through her in an electrical tsunami. She opened her eyes a moment later, lifted her head, and stared into space before her. A pained expression twisted her face as the truth overwhelmed her. "Stolen," she said, her voice barely over a whisper. She held herself steady and lowered her arms. "All stolen. All of them." Catherine looked away from the androids on the shelves and walls. Dozens more androids crammed onto the shelves, hanging from nets and sacks, stuffed into crates on the floor. Not dozens, hundreds of them. Catherine gazed at the gathering of quivering android parts, unable to speak further.